Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to get this makeup look. It's a full face look you can do in about 15 minutes. It's pretty easy to do. It's definitely something a beginner can do. And I'm going to be using only 7 brushes. And these are the 7 brushes I will be using. These are the Lorac brushes. I was sent these to make a video with, just so you guys all know that. So there are 7 brushes in this set and I will be using all of them and kind of telling you my thoughts as the tutorial goes on. So if you'd like to see how I created this look, then just keep watching. So I'm going to start out just using a BB cream. I'm just using the Tarte BB cream in the color Fair. And I just apply this with my fingers. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my normal foundation. This is the Makeup Forever HD mixed with Illamasqua Skin Base in white. And I'm going to be using the Lorac foundation brush to apply. So I'd like to apply it to my hand, or if you're working on a client, go for a palette. And then take a little bit just at the very tips of the bristles. And you want to use crosshatch motions to apply when you're using a paddle brush style foundation brush. So this is going to give me the most even application versus you don't really want to go up because that's just going to catch on dry patches and move hairs and whatnot. And down you can still see that's giving me lines. So crosshatch motions back and forth is going to give you the most even coverage. Brushes like this aren't my absolute favorite for this kind of texture when it comes to foundation. I find this works best with thinner foundations. MAC Face and Body I like to apply with this and then rub in with my fingers. The Naked Skin by Urban Decay and like that kind of more serum liquid foundations I find do the best with this style. So all I did to apply with this type of brush is I just use little crosshatch motions and then see where I'm wanting to build up where I have a little bit of redness down there. I want to do thin layers. So I've already done one and then you're just going to want to crosshatch right over the top. But this is a nice style brush because it does a good job in keeping your layers thin. So this is not going to be as suitable for someone that wants a really full coverage, but it's great for people that want a kind of a light to even medium coverage. So yeah, overall I like this brush well enough. It's a little bit thicker than the other paddle brushes I have, which I like, and it does a good job applying it if you enjoy a paddle brush. I know that's kind of, people either love them or hate them. So now I'm just applying a little bit of corrector. I'm using the NYX corrector, and this is in the lightest shade, and I'm just patting that along my under eyes with my fingers. I've started to use my primer right now for my eyes because I find that then I don't ruin my eyebrows or my powder later. So I'm just using the MAC Painterly Paint Pot, and this is in the color Painterly. And I'm just applying that all over my eyelids. And now I'm just using my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer in Chantilly, and I'm applying that under my eyes and wherever else I need a little extra coverage. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and powder my face. So Lorac does have a powder brush. However, I don't like using a brush to apply my setting powder. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and use a puff. So you can see I'm pressing and rolling this into my skin, and I'll show you what I do use the powder brush for in just a moment. I'm using a combination of RMCA No Color powder and then also Ben Nye Cameo to set. So as you can see, doing the press and roll technique, I do have a bit of powder left on my face and I look kind of crazy. So that's when I use a powder brush, and I just use it to knock off all the excess. So I do actually really like this because this powder brush is really soft. So it doesn't seem to really move any of my makeup. You can also use a brush like this and just press and roll into your skin the powder. This works great if you are more on that normal to dry side and you don't need quite as much kind of hold with your makeup. So we're gonna go ahead and add some eyebrows right now since I always look crazy without them. I'm going to take their little eyebrow comb combo and just brush my brows in the correct direction. That helps me kind of see where my brow hairs are and just makes it easier. And then I'm using the eyebrow brush and I'm applying the Anastasia Brow Powder Duo. And I have an in-depth tutorial on this on my channel, which I will link if you're interested. But all I'm going to do is basically draw a line under my brow, and then I start feathering it upwards. This is going to be a pretty natural looking brow, just since we're doing kind of a full face, but something that's not going to take too long. As I'm getting to the outside, I take the darker color and then I go from the top of the arch, pulling it downwards. And then again, feather it in so that you've basically filled in the entire eyebrow. And I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. So this brush isn't my absolute favorite for eyebrows, just because I prefer a little more of a structured brow. So I really like my tails to be really sharp, and this is just not, it's just not ridiculously sharp or angled, as there's more brush hairs than I normally would have in my brow brush. However, I'm going to show you how I use it on my eyes, and that's more what I like this brush for. Really, when it comes to brushes, I like it when brushes just have numbers on them and don't try to like tell you what you're supposed to do. Since, I mean, you can use a brush for pretty much whatever you want to. But I know that that's helpful for people that are more starting, because they sometimes want to be like, well, what am I supposed to use this for? So I can see the advantage. I just don't always use them for the right thing. So I'm also just blending the front half of my brow hairs because I want to soften and kind of break up the product there. And now I'm using the NYX Clear Brow Gel, and I'm just going to run this through my eyebrows to keep them in place. Since I wanted to do something pretty easy and quick, I'm going to go for the Lorac Pro. So as you can see, mine's taken a beating. So I don't have any more of the cream color, and I will be using Max Blanc Type instead. So I'm taking the Beaugachet eyeshadow brush, and I'm going to use this just to apply this as a base shadow. This is a pretty fluffy brush. This will also show you how you can use very few brushes to actually do all your makeup, since I'm only going to be using 3 brushes on my eyeballs. So now that I've applied that from the crease up to my brow bone, I'm going to go in and start applying actually color. I'm going to continue using this brush, and I'm going to be using the Garnet shade. And Garnet is just this really rich, pretty reddish brown color. And I'm going to use patting motions. This brush is very fluffy, so you do want to be mindful to pat, not kind of rub, because it will just kind of smear the color everywhere. But it does do a great job at actually picking the product up. So now that I've got the color basically on my eyeballs, I'm going to blend the edges. And I'm using the Beaugachet smudge brush to blend. And just using little baby swirling motions. So now I'm just going to take a tissue and quickly wipe off the eyeshadow brush. And I'm taking a little bit of the taupe color. And I'm just going to take that with the brush facing this direction so I can fit it more into the crease. And just apply the color with this brush. So with it facing horizontally, you're going to want to apply that into the crease. And now taking the smudge brush, you're going to blend that out. This brush does do a good job on kind of smudging shadows. I actually really like it for the lower lash line, which I will show you that in a moment. Not my favorite for smudging like a eyeliner or something, but it does a great job blending normal eyeshadows. I like that it's more just this dome shape. It doesn't really come to a point and it doesn't have a clamped ferrule, so it's a more unique brush. Most of the other brushes, I do have similar brushes in my collection, but I don't have something like this yet, so I actually really like this brush. So now that you've got your eyeshadows on the top blended, you're going to want to go ahead and grab your brow brush. And I'm grabbing the color Sable, and we're just going to run that along our lower lash line. This is what I like using this brush for more than my brows. I like it to smudge on liner. So now go in with your smudge brush and just blend that out. I'm going in with the eyeshadow brush again, and I'm taking more of the taupe shade so that we have a transition. I really like to have a lot of color on my lower lash line, so you could leave it at just the sable color more as a liner, but if you want a little extra something, go ahead and grab this brush. And it is fluffy enough that you can do some blending. So as you can see, I'm doing back and forth motions just to blend that out. And you're gonna go ahead and wipe off this brush one last time. And you're just going to want to grab a little bit of the nude and white, and I'm just mixing that together from the Lorac Pro, and use that to highlight your inner corners. Because of the shape of it being flat enough that you can basically press the color on like this, but it's fluffy enough that you can blend upwards, it's kind of nice if you were just wanting a brush to take with you that can do kind of multiple things all at once. And then I'm taking a little of MAC Mylar, which this should be to no surprise to anyone, and I'm using that to highlight my brow bone. So I'm just going to go ahead and curl my eyelashes and add some mascara, and I'll be right back. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and finish the face. So I'm gonna show you how I actually use this for powder. So I use the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in Ethereal as my finishing powder, and that's what I will use to apply this. I really like this brush for applying finishing powders because even though it's synthetic, this one's quite soft. So it doesn't really disturb my makeup that's underneath. So I'm still gonna go ahead and highlight quickly, even though this is more of a quick full face makeup routine. I'm using the same brush, and I'm going to be using the Ambient Lighting Powder, and this is in the color Luminous Light. So just apply that to your cheekbones. So, and this is the Bogachet their contour brush. So I'm going to go ahead and contour my face real quick. This is the Illamasqua eyeshadow in Heroin. And I like to get the most of the color kind of right here on the brush so that I can kind of blend with the rest. So you can see I've angled it here, and that's where I'll apply kind of the bulk of my contour. And now that, as you can see, a lot of the product is gone, that's when I go ahead and blend, and that's when I use the entire brush. Personally, I prefer a domed contour brush. I don't like the angled ones. If you like an angled contour, this is pretty good for an angled contour, but I've actually been more enjoying this as a blush brush, so you will actually see how I use it for blush next. It does a good job blending. It's not quite as soft as the other brushes, but it does a good job blending, so I don't really mind. It's by no means like rough. It's just like this brush is super soft, and then this one's not quite as soft. It also has a nice amount of density, so it's not too fluffy where you're not getting enough product, but it's also not like super dense where you're like, oh my gosh, way too much. So now we're just gonna apply some blush. I'm going to use the Rockateur blush by Benefit, and I'm using the contour brush to apply. And this is what I really like this brush for, because I find if I do these small little circular motions, it just makes my blush sit super nice on my face. So you can see like that, I don't know, I really like the way it looks. All right, and now I'm just going to add a lip color real quick. I'm gonna be using the L'Oreal Ferris Nude. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little kind of 15-20 minute look using only 7 brushes. So you can see you can put together a pretty put together full face look with only a couple brushes. You don't necessarily need like a huge arsenal. Like I said, these were the Beau Gachet brushes. They come in this cute little holder. If you'd like more information, I will link their website in the down box below. If you'd like to see more tutorials from me, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and